"What's that?" my wife whispered, her voice trembling as she held the pink dress she had just taken out of the box. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard our 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, scream with excitement the moment the package arrived. It was an ordinary Thursday morning, and there was no indication that this gift from my in-laws would change everything forever. "Daddy, there's a package for me." Sophie had run up to me with her eyes sparkling. Her name was written on the label in my mother-in-law's careful handwriting, that slanted script I knew so well from birthday cards. My wife Lisa opened the box on the living room table, still in her pajamas, while Sophie danced anxiously beside her. Inside was a delicate pink dress, wrapped in perfectly folded white tissue paper. The kind of outfit you would wear to an elegant party or a piano recital. "How beautiful!" Sophie exclaimed, clapping her hands. But then Lisa froze completely. It wasn't a gradual stop, it wasn't hesitation. It was as if someone had pressed a pause button. She stared at the front of the dress with an expression I had never seen before. "Lisa? What's wrong?" I asked, approaching her. That's when I saw it. Embroidered in white cursive letters, right in the center of the chest, "Little Emma." My name is Kevin, and at 35 years old, I just witnessed my wife discover something that would make our world fall apart. Because Emma is not our daughter. Emma is Lisa's older sister, who disappeared 5 years ago after stealing $50,000 from our family. Lisa's hands began to shake violently as she held the dress. Sophie looked at us confused, not understanding why the gift had another name. "Mommy, who is Emma?" Sophie asked innocently. Lisa didn't answer. She simply got up, took the dress, and left the room without saying a word. I heard our bedroom door slam. Sophie looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Daddy, did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart. It's nothing you did." But as I comforted our daughter, a terrible suspicion began to form in my mind. That dress wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. And if my theory was right, it meant that my in-laws had been lying to us for much longer than we had imagined. Because I remembered Lisa telling me about a dress just like that. A dress that Emma wore on Lisa's 6th birthday, stealing all the attention from the party that should have been hers. If you're enjoying this story of family betrayal and want to find out how far the lies went, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. What my in-laws didn't know was that I had found some forgotten documents in the attic a few weeks earlier. Documents that proved Emma had never completely disappeared. And now, looking at that dress, I was sure they knew exactly where she was. I found Lisa sitting on the edge of our bed, holding the dress as if it were a bomb about to explode. Her tears fell silently onto the pink fabric. "You have to understand who Emma is," she whispered when I sat down next to her. "She's not just my sister. She's the person who destroyed our family." Emma had always been the golden child. 2 years older than Lisa, she had the kind of charisma that made adults lean in to hear her speak. She was a ballerina, got straight A's, and could convince anyone of anything. "Remember our first apartment?" Lisa continued. "When we were saving up for the wedding?" I remembered. It was tiny, but it was ours. We worked 2 shifts each to save money. Emma showed up saying she had an incredible business opportunity. A sustainable clothing brand she was launching. She showed us a professional website, product photos, even supposed contracts with boutiques in Los Angeles. Lisa's voice grew harder. She said she needed investors, that in a year she would triple our money. She assured us it was safe, that she already had other financiers waiting. Emma had a perfect presentation. Colorful spreadsheets, clothing mock-ups, even fake testimonials from satisfied customers. Lisa and I were young, naive, and Emma was family. We gave her $15,000. All our wedding money, Lisa said, her voice breaking. But that wasn't all. Emma had asked Lisa to co-sign a few temporary loans to expand production. Small amounts at first, just $2,000 here, $3,000 there. Lisa signed everything, trusting her older sister blindly. Within 6 months, she had opened credit accounts in my name. Cards I didn't even know existed. By the time I found out, I owed $35,000. My in-laws, of course, were also victims. They mortgaged their house to give Emma $50,000. To make sure the brand takes off, she had said. For a whole year, Emma sent regular updates. Photos of meetings with investors, screenshots of orders in progress, even a video of her at a supposed fashion show in Miami. It was all a lie. The last message we got was a text saying she was moving abroad. That she needed space to grow artistically, Lisa said bitterly. We never heard from her again. But the debts remained. Lisa's credit was destroyed. I had to work 3 jobs for 2 years to pay everything off. Our wedding was postponed for 3 years. Our dreams of buying a house were shattered. And my in-laws? They lost their house. They had to move into a small apartment, living on a minimal pension. You don't understand, Lisa said, wiping her face. All these years, my parents said Emma was missing. That they didn't know where she was. That they were as devastated as we were. She looked at the dress again. But this dress, it's identical to the one Emma wore on my 6th birthday. Same fabric, same color, same stars embroidered on it. They didn't buy this at a regular store, Kevin. They had it custom made. The implication was clear. To have a dress made exactly like this, they would have had to have the original as a reference. And if they had the original dress, they're in contact with her, I said, anger rising in my chest. Lisa nodded. And if they're in touch with her, that means they've been lying to us all these years. While we were struggling to rebuild our lives, while I was crying thinking something terrible had happened to my sister, they knew exactly where she was. I stood up abruptly. Lisa, you need to see something. I went to the attic and brought back the box I had found weeks earlier. Inside were old documents belonging to my in-laws that they had forgotten when they moved out of the apartment. Look at this, I said, showing her a series of bank receipts. Monthly transfers of $500 to an account in the name of Emma Richardson. The receipts are from 2 years ago. Lisa's face turned pale. Richardson is my mother's maiden name. And look at the dates, I continued. They started exactly 6 months after she disappeared. There was more. Postcards with no return address, but Emma's handwriting. Photos of her on tropical beaches, always without showing her face, but with details Lisa recognized immediately. This bracelet, Lisa said, pointing to a photo. I gave her that bracelet for Christmas in 2017. The puzzle was coming together. Emma hadn't disappeared. She was living comfortably somewhere tropical, supported by the money she had stolen and monthly transfers from her parents. And all this time, my in-laws watched Lisa suffer, watched our family struggle financially, and never said a word. They let us think she was dead, Lisa whispered. Meanwhile, they were sending her money every month. That's when I made a decision. Emma had stolen our future once. My in-laws had lied to us for years. But now I had proof. And unlike last time, this time I was prepared. What they didn't know was that I had spent the last 5 years preparing for this moment. Not consciously, but every skill I had developed, every contact I had made in my work as an insurance investigator, every technique I had learned to track fraud. All of it was about to come in handy in a way they could never have imagined. After seeing the documents, Lisa couldn't control herself anymore. She locked herself in the bathroom and cried for 2 hours straight. Sophie stood outside the door, asking repeatedly if Mommy was okay. Daddy, why is Mommy crying? Sophie whispered, clinging to my leg. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her grandparents are liars? That the aunt she never knew is a criminal? That the loving gift she received was actually a psychological stab in the back? Mommy's going through a difficult time, sweetheart. But everything will be okay. That was a lie. Everything was not going to be okay. Not while Emma was being supported by her parents at our expense. Because I discovered something even worse while Lisa was crying. Digging deeper into the forgotten documents, I found more recent bank statements. The transfers to Emma weren't just $500 a month. Over the last year, they had increased to $1,500 a month. And I knew exactly where that extra money was coming from. 3 months ago, my in-laws started calling almost every week. Always with a new financial emergency. The air conditioner had broken down. The refrigerator needed to be replaced. The doctor's bill was higher than expected. Lisa, with her generous heart, never questioned it. We sent $2,000 for the air conditioner. $1,500 for the refrigerator. $800 for doctor bills. All of it went straight to Emma. We were financing the tropical lifestyle of the woman who had destroyed our family, without even knowing it. When Lisa finally came out of the bathroom, Her eyes were red and swollen. Sophie rushed to her, and Lisa hugged her as if her life depended on it. "Kevin," she said hoarsely, "I need to call my parents. I need to confront them." "No," I said firmly. "Not yet." "Why?" "They've lied to us for years." "Because if you call them now, they'll make up an excuse. They'll say they were protecting Emma, that she was in danger, anything. And then they'll tell her to disappear again." Lisa looked at me with a confused expression. "So what do you want to do?" That's when my cell phone rang. Unknown number. "Kevin," a familiar female voice said on the other end of the line. My blood ran cold. It was Emma. "Hi, brother-in-law," she continued, as if we'd spoken yesterday. I heard Lisa was upset about the little gift. Lisa realized who it was from my expression and rushed over to me, trying to hear the conversation. "How did you get my number?" I asked, my voice controlled but cold. "Please, Kevin. You think I don't keep in touch with the family? Mom gave me your number years ago." Another lie. Another betrayal by my in-laws. "What do you want, Emma?" "Relax, I'm not calling to ask for money. Actually, I have good news." Her voice was strangely cheerful. "I'm coming home." Lisa's stomach dropped. I could see the panic in her eyes. "Coming back?" I repeated. "Yes. I'm tired of living abroad. I miss my family, you know? And Mom said you and Lisa have a beautiful little girl. I can't wait to meet my niece." Sophie was playing in the living room, oblivious to the conversation that could change her life forever. "When?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Next week." "Isn't that exciting? We're going to have a big family reunion. Mom is planning a special dinner." Lisa began to shake her head frantically, tears streaming down her face. "Actually," Emma continued, "I hope we can get past that little misunderstanding from the past. I know you were upset about the business deal, but it was all just a misunderstanding, right?" Misunderstanding. She was calling stealing $50,000 and destroying our credit a misunderstanding. "Sure," I lied. "Misunderstanding. I knew you'd understand. I've always liked you, Kevin. You're so much more rational than Lisa." More manipulation. Trying to separate me from my wife. "Well, I have to go. I still have to organize the move. But we'll see each other soon, okay? Mom is so happy she can hardly sleep." She hung up before I could respond. Lisa looked at me with utter horror. "She's coming back," she whispered. "Kevin, she's coming back, and she's going to meet Sophie." "No," I said firmly. "She's not." "But my parents will insist. You know how they are. They'll say it's family, that we need to forgive, that Sophie deserves to know her aunt." Lisa was right. My in-laws would do exactly that. They would pressure Lisa with emotional guilt until she gave in. And then Emma would walk into our daughter's life, ready to manipulate her just as she had manipulated all of us. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. "Lisa, do you trust me?" "Of course I do." "Then let me handle this. Not the traditional way, by confronting her or arguing. My way." She looked at me with curiosity mixed with hope. "How?" "Remember I've been working as an insurance fraud investigator for 10 years? That I spend my time tracking down people who lie about accidents, who forge documents, who create fake identities." Lisa nodded slowly. "Emma thinks she's smart. She thinks she can come back and pick up her life as if nothing happened. But she made one fundamental mistake." "What mistake?" "She underestimated what I'm capable of finding out. And more importantly, she has no idea what I've already found out." I grabbed my laptop and opened a folder I'd been secretly building over the last few weeks, ever since I found the first suspicious documents. Emma didn't just steal from us. She created an entire network of fraud. Fake companies, multiple identities, bank accounts in other people's names. And all of this information left digital traces. I showed Lisa screen after screen of evidence I had compiled. Fake corporate records, fraudulent credit applications, even photos of Emma using different names on social media. "My God," Lisa whispered. "This is much worse than we imagined." And that's just the beginning. If she wants to come back and play happy family, we'll let her. But this time, she'll find out she's playing against someone who knows all the rules. I closed the laptop and looked my wife straight in the eye. Emma destroyed our life once because we were naive. But now I have the tools, the knowledge, and the connections to turn the tables on her. What are you going to do? I smiled for the first time in days. It wasn't a happy smile, but a smile of someone who finally saw the path to justice. I'm going to give Emma exactly what she deserves. And this time, she won't get away. What Emma didn't know was that her rational brother-in-law had spent the last 5 years not only paying off the debts she had created, but also learning exactly how people like her operate. More importantly, how they can be stopped permanently. The war was about to begin. But this time, I had all the weapons. In the 5 days following Emma's call, I turned our house into a silent command center. While Lisa took Sophie to school and went about her normal routine, I worked feverishly in my home office, putting together what would become the most important case of my career. The first thing I did was call Marcus Chun, my former FBI colleague who now worked as a digital security consultant. Kevin? Man, it's been a while, Marcus said when he answered. What do you need? Remember that digital tracking technique you taught me? I need to use it on someone very close to me. Family. Sister-in-law. And it's complicated. Marcus was silent for a moment. He knew my history with Emma superficially, but I had never told him all the details. Send me what you've got. I'll take a look. I sent Marcus everything I had compiled on Emma, the bank documents, the social media photos, the fake corporate records. Within 48 hours, he got back to me with information that made my blood run cold. Kevin, your sister-in-law isn't just a small-time con artist. She's running an international fraud ring. Marcus had been tracking Emma's digital activity for the past 5 years. She wasn't just living off the money she stole from us, living on the beach. She was active, very active. Look at this, Marcus said during our video conference. She has at least 7 different identities registered in 3 countries. Emma Richardson, Emily Roberts, Elena Rodriguez. All with seemingly legitimate documentation. The evidence was devastating. Emma had created a series of shell companies, each specializing in different types of scams. Sustainability consulting for conscious companies. Digital influence agency for emerging brands. Even a supposed NGO for marine preservation. The most lucrative one is this one, Marcus pointed to the screen. A company called Future Eco Solutions. She convinces investors to fund renewable energy projects in developing countries. The money goes straight to an account in the Cayman Islands. How much money? In the last 2 years? Approximately $1.5 million. My stomach dropped. Emma was no longer the irresponsible sister who had stolen $50,000 from us. She had become a sophisticated criminal operating on an international scale. And there's more, Marcus continued. She's being investigated by Interpol. There's an arrest warrant out for her real name in France. For what? Investment fraud. She convinced a group of French retirees to invest their life savings in a non-existent solar farm in Morocco. The pieces began to fall into place. Emma wasn't coming home because she missed her family. She was on the run. The heat was turning up in Europe, and she needed a safe place to hide while she reorganized her operations. And my in-laws, innocently, had offered her exactly that. Marcus, I need one more thing. Can you track international bank transfers? It depends. What are you looking for? I want to know if my in-laws sent money to Emma abroad. And if so, how much and where? 3 days later, Marcus called me with the answer I feared but expected. Kevin, your in-laws have sent Emma $142,000 over the past 4 years. Split into small transfers to avoid detection. $142,000. More than the value of the house they sold. More than their entire retirement savings. How did they get that much money? I asked. Loans. Refinancing the house. Even taking out loans against his retirement. My in-laws had completely mortgaged themselves to support Emma's criminal lifestyle. And all this time, Lisa and I had been sending money thinking we were helping with basic expenses. That's when I developed the cruelest part of my plan. I called Jeremy Walsh, an investigative reporter at the local news station. Jeremy had done a series of reports on financial fraud in our area, and I knew he would love a story like this. Jeremy, this is Kevin Thompson. I work as an insurance investigator for Midwest Financial. Hi, Kevin. How can I help you? I have a story for you. International fraud, money from the Cayman Islands, elderly people being exploited. Interested? Very. What are we talking about? A female criminal wanted by Interpol is about to return to the United States. And she has a local network of accomplices who have been financing her for years. Jeremy was silent, processing the information. Do you have proof? Documents, bank transfers, fake corporate records. All authenticated and verified. When can we talk? How about tomorrow? But Jeremy, I need something. When the story breaks, the timing has to be perfect. Why? Because the criminal will only be in the country for a few hours before she finds out she's being hunted. If we miss that window, she'll disappear again. While organizing the media exposure, I also worked on the legal side. I contacted a lawyer specializing in financial crimes and prepared a formal representation for the FBI. Not just about Emma, but about the entire facilitation network. Because my in-laws weren't just victims. They were accomplices. By knowingly transferring money to someone they knew was on the run from justice, they had become part of the criminal scheme. And there were legal consequences for that. Lisa, I said on the eve of Emma's return, I need to tell you exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. We were in our bedroom, Sophie already asleep. Lisa had been visibly nervous since she learned of her sister's return. Emma will arrive tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the airport. Her parents will pick her up and take her directly to the welcome home dinner they've prepared. And then, at 3 p.m., the report on international fraud will air on the local channel. At 3:15, the FBI will receive my formal representation. At 4 p.m., there will be a federal arrest warrant in Emma's name. Lisa looked at me with a mixture of admiration and horror. You're going to arrest my sister? No, honey. Your sister arrested herself years ago. I'm just making sure she faces the consequences. What about my parents? That was the hardest part. They're going to be investigated as well. They can't claim ignorance when they have documented evidence that they knew about her criminal activities. Lisa began to cry silently. Kevin, they're my parents. I know. And they spent years lying to you, using your money to finance a criminal, and now they're trying to bring that criminal back into our daughter's life. I sat down next to her and held her hands. Lisa, you need to understand something. Emma didn't come back because she loves her family. She came back because she's running from the European police. And when the situation heats up here too, she'll disappear again. But this time, she'll take your parents with her. What do you mean? Her parents are up to their necks in debt. They mortgaged everything to give Emma money. When she disappears again, who do you think will have to take on their debts? Understanding slowly dawned on Lisa's face. Us. Exactly. Emma is playing her last card. She comes back, drains what little value there is left here, and disappears, leaving us all ruined. It was at that moment that I showed Lisa the final part of my plan. If you followed this story so far and want to see how a simple investigation can completely turn the tables, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But what if she doesn't disappear? I asked rhetorically. What if, this time, she's forced to stay and face everything she's done? On the table in our bedroom, I spread out the final pieces of evidence I had compiled. Not just about Emma, but about the entire network of accomplices that had allowed her to operate freely for years. Tomorrow Lisa, her family is going to find out what happens when someone finally decides to fight back. What Emma didn't know was that her rational brother-in-law had spent the last 5 years unconsciously preparing for this moment. Every skill I had developed tracking professional fraudsters, every contact I had made in law enforcement, every technique I had learned to dismantle criminal operations, all of it was about to be directed at one person. And unlike every other time, this time Emma would have nowhere to run. Emma's return began exactly as planned. At 2 in the afternoon, Lisa and I were in the airport parking lot, watching from a distance as my in-laws waited anxiously in the arrivals terminal. Emma appeared wearing sunglasses and a stylish hat, carrying only a carry-on bag. She was tanned, well-dressed. exactly like someone who had spent years living in expensive resorts at the expense of other people's money. The reunion was exactly what we expected. Tears, hugs, my mother-in-law repeating my daughter is back like a mantra. Emma smiled with that characteristic confidence, as if the last 5 years had been nothing more than an extended vacation. Let's go home, I whispered to Lisa, holding her trembling hand. We arrived at my in-laws' house at 3 in the afternoon. From outside, we could hear laughter coming from the dining room. Emma was telling stories about her adventures abroad, probably omitting the details about international fraud and arrest warrants. At 3:15, my phone rang. It was Jeremy. Kevin, the report just aired. It's causing quite a stir. We've already received dozens of calls from people saying they recognize the woman in the photos. Perfect. And the FBI? They confirmed they received your representation. They said it's one of the best documented cases they've ever seen. I took a deep breath. It was time. We rang the doorbell. My father-in-law opened the door with a forced smile that disappeared when he saw us. Kevin, Lisa. We didn't know you were coming. Surprise, said Lisa, her voice cold as ice. We entered the dining room where Emma was sitting at the head of the table, as if she owned the house. She looked at us with that condescending smile I hated. Brother-in-law. And Lisa. Emma stood up, trying to hug us. I'm so glad you came to celebrate my return. Celebrate. Lisa laughed bitterly. We're here for another reason. That's when the house phone started ringing. Then another. And another. How strange, my mother-in-law muttered, ignoring the calls. We never get so many calls. Maybe you should answer, I suggested calmly. My father-in-law picked up the phone on the 4th ring. Hello? What? What report? No, it must be a mistake. What do you mean on television? He hung up, confused. Someone said they saw us on television. It must be a prank call. Emma frowned. What kind of report? That's when her cell phone started ringing. Unknown number. She rejected the call, but immediately another number appeared. And another. Something's going on, Emma said, her confidence beginning to waver. It sure is, I replied, taking my laptop out of my bag. How about we watch it together? I connected the laptop to the TV in the living room and opened the local news channel's website. The headline made Emma visibly pale. International criminal returns to the U.S. Fraudster wanted by Interpol runs $1 million scheme with help from local family. Emma's photo was plastered across the screen. Not a recent photo, but one of the many Marcus had found on her fake online profiles. According to exclusive investigations, Jeremy's voice narrated, Emma Richardson, also known by the aliases Emily Roberts and Elena Rodriguez, returned to the United States today after 5 years of operating international fraud schemes totaling over $1.5 million. My in-laws were speechless. Emma had turned into a statue of salt. The criminal was financed for years by a local network of accomplices, Jeremy continued, including documented bank transfers of over $140,000. The bank statements Marcus had tracked down appeared on the screen. Each transfer from my in-laws to Emma was highlighted in red. No, my mother-in-law whispered. This can't be happening. Richardson is wanted by Interpol for defrauding French retirees in a fake investment scheme, Jeremy continued. Authorities confirmed that a federal arrest warrant will be issued later today. It was at that moment that Emma finally found her voice. You did this, she said, staring at me with pure hatred. You turned me in. We didn't do anything, Lisa replied coldly. You turned yourself in the moment you chose a life of crime. You don't understand. Emma shouted. I was running from dangerous people. I needed my parents' money to protect me. That's a lie, I said calmly, opening another tab on the laptop. You were running from the police, not criminals. And as for dangerous people, I showed her the photos Marcus had found, Emma on luxury yachts, in casinos, at 5-star resorts. All from the last 2 years. Those dangerous people have a really hard life, don't they? My father-in-law was staring at the bank statements on the TV as if he couldn't process them. $140,000, he muttered. We gave her $140,000. Money you got by going completely into debt, I added. Mortgaging the house, taking out payday loans, asking Lisa and me to send money for emergencies that were actually wire transfers to an international criminal. You knew, Lisa said, her voice breaking with emotion. You knew she had stolen from us. You knew she had destroyed my credit. And yet you continued to send her money. My mother-in-law began to cry. She's our daughter. We couldn't abandon her. But abandoning me was okay, Lisa shouted. When I was working 2 jobs to pay off the debts she ran up in my name. When Kevin and I put off our wedding for 3 years. When we gave up our dreams of buying a house. That's different, my father-in-law stammered. You were fine. You had Kevin to help you. And Emma had you, I replied. The difference is that Lisa deserved help, and Emma deserved jail. That's when Emma's cell phone rang again. This time, she answered it. Hello. Her voice was tense. After a few seconds, she turned even paler. When? Today? No, I need more time. She hung up and looked directly at me. That was my lawyer. The FBI is on its way. The silence in the room was broken by the sound of sirens in the distance, getting closer. You destroyed our family, my father-in-law said, staring at me angrily. No, I replied calmly. Emma destroyed the family 5 years ago. You destroyed our trust by lying to us all this time. We just made sure the truth finally came out. The sirens were closer now. I have to go, Emma said, grabbing her purse. I can't stay here. Where are you going to run this time? Lisa asked. Which country? Under what false identity? Emma headed for the door, but stopped when she saw the FBI cars pulling up outside. Too late, I muttered. 3 federal agents climbed the porch steps. Their badges flashed in the afternoon light as they rang the doorbell. Emma Richardson, the lead agent said when my father-in-law opened the door. I'm Special Agent Rodriguez, FBI. You're under arrest. Emma tried one last gambit. There's been a misunderstanding. I haven't done anything wrong. My family can confirm that. The agent looked at my in-laws. Are you Harold and Margaret Thompson? They nodded nervously. You are also under investigation for facilitating criminal operations through international wire transfers to a known fugitive. My in-laws' world collapsed in that moment. Not only was Emma being arrested, but they could also face charges. As Emma was being handcuffed, she looked at me one last time. You think you've won, she said with venom in her voice. But this isn't over. I smiled for the first time in weeks. You're right. This isn't over. It ended for you 5 years ago. You're just finding that out now. The agents led Emma to the car. The last words I heard her say were, Dad, help me. But my father-in-law just stood on the porch, watching his favorite daughter being taken away. When the FBI cars drove away, my in-laws turned to us with a mixture of hatred and despair. You did this on purpose, my mother-in-law accused. You planned this. Yes, I replied without hesitation. Because you would never tell the truth voluntarily. Now Emma is going to prison and we're going to be investigated. Are you happy? Lisa looked at her parents with a deep sadness I had never seen before. I'm not happy, she said softly. I'm finally free. What none of us expected was that Emma had saved a final card to play. One we wouldn't discover until the next day, when lawyers arrived with documents proving that the web of lies ran even deeper than we had imagined. Emma's final card was revealed the next day when her lawyer showed up at our door with documents proving an even more devastating truth. Emma had forged Lisa's signature on multiple loan agreements over the past 2 years. Using information my in-laws had provided about our financial life, she had taken out loans in my wife's name without our knowledge. $38,000 in debt that you didn't even know existed, the lawyer explained. Your sister-in-law is more sophisticated than we realized. But this time, I was prepared. Marcus had tracked down all of these fraudulent transactions weeks earlier. We already had certified copies of all the forged documents, handwriting analysis proving the forgery, and witnesses who confirmed where Lisa was on the days the signatures were allegedly made. Actually, I replied calmly, we already knew that. And we have everything documented to prosecute both Emma and anyone who facilitated access to the personal information necessary for these crimes. The lawyer paled as he realized the implication. My in-laws weren't just passive accomplices. They had actively provided confidential information about our financial life to enable Emma to continue harming us. 3 weeks later, Emma was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for international fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. My in-laws received 2 years of probation and were ordered to pay full restitution for all of the funds she had transferred illegally. But true justice came from an unexpected source. Emma's French victims, those retirees who lost their life savings, filed a civil lawsuit in the United States. With the evidence we provided, they were able to freeze all of the assets Emma had acquired with the stolen money. The beach house in the Bahamas apartment in Miami, the jewelry, the imported cars, everything was auctioned off to compensate the victims. Emma left prison 8 years later penniless and with a criminal record that would prevent her from getting a job at any reputable company. My in-laws sold what remained of their possessions to pay the restitution ordered by the court. They moved into a small subsidized apartment and survive on government benefits. Lisa no longer speaks to them. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. They made a choice, she told me months after the trial. For years, they chose to protect the daughter who was stealing from them over the daughter who was helping them. Now they live with the consequences of that choice. Sophie, our daughter, grew up without ever really knowing that toxic part of the family. When she asks about her grandparents, we simply explain that some people make choices that drive them away from the people they love. The most striking transformation was Lisa's. For years, she carried the weight of guilt for not being good enough for her parents. After everything that happened, she finally understood that the problem was never her. You know what's most amazing? Lisa told me a few months ago. I sleep through the night now. For the first time in years, I don't wake up worried about whether we have to send money to my parents or if Emma will show up asking for help. We bought our first house 2 years after the trial. It's a beautiful house with a big yard where Sophie can play without fear of unexpected visitors bringing pink dresses with the wrong names embroidered on them. In my desk drawer, I keep a photo of Emma being led away in handcuffs that day. Not out of revenge, but as a reminder. A reminder that people like her count on our passivity, our tendency to keep the peace even when we're being hurt. What I've learned on this journey is that true strength doesn't come from accepting injustice in silence. It comes from using your skills, knowledge, and resources to protect those you love from people who choose to hurt others. Emma thought she could come back and continue manipulating our family because we had been passive before. She didn't count on the fact that 5 years gave us time to grow, learn, and prepare. If this story of perseverance and justice has touched you, and if you want to see more stories of people who refuse to accept being victims forever, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The last time I heard from Emma, she was working as a housekeeper at a cheap hotel in Detroit, living in a rented room and trying to rebuild her life on minimum wage. My in-laws? They spend their days watching television and lamenting their choices. Us? We're planning Sophie's summer vacation to Disney. She's going to wear a new dress, one she picked out herself, with her name embroidered on it proudly. And this time when she twirls around in her new dress, all eyes will be on her, as they always should have been.